Just everything?
Yeah, just everything.
We go there.
It's in.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the commanding officer of 8th Marine Regiment, Colonel Kenneth DeTrue, and the Marines and sailors of 8th Marine Regiment, thank you for joining us today for the dedication ceremony of the Yale Haerter Chapel. This morning, it is our distinct pleasure and honor to personally welcome the family members and friends of Corporal Jonathan T. Yale and Lance Corporal Jordan C. Haerter. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the invocation given by the 1st Battalion 9th Marines Chapel, Lieutenant Doyle E. McMurray, United States Navy, and remain standing for the playing of our national anthem.
Let us pray. Lord, as we come here today to dedicate this chow hall to the memory of these two Marines, may we not only remember what they have done, but who they were that led them to do what they did. Their actions were heroic, and by anyone's definition. May we never forget the men that did that. May we ask your blessings on their families and on the Marines that they saved. And on every Marine who enters this place, I pray that your blessings. It's in your precious name that I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Detail! Attention! Present arms! Order! Arms! Parade! Rest!
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Please be seated. This building is significant for 8th Marine Regiment, as well as the 2nd Marine Division, and is a tribute to both Corporal Yale and Lance Corporal Haerter, and all of our fallen Marines who have given their last full measure while leading Marines in harm's way. Corporal Yale and Lance Corporal Haerter paid the ultimate sacrifice to save the lives of their fellow Marines, selfless actions that would result in the posthumous awarding of the Navy Cross. It is only fitting that the new members of our Corps, those infantry leaders of tomorrow, should know and revel in the heroic deeds that these Marines who embody the ideals of the fighter leader. Ladies and gentlemen, the commanding officer of 8th Marine Regiment, Colonel DeTrue.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Can't beat the weather today. That may be a testament to something here today. The Colonel Clark, Colonel Fitzpatrick, Sergeant Major Zickafoose, fellow commanders, fellow sergeant majors, Marines, sailors, and especially the Haerter and Yale family. 8th Marines welcomes you today to the Wallace Creek Chow Hall dedication ceremony. I think it's important today to take the time to tell the story. To tell the story of how we've come here. To tell the story of how Jonathan and Jordan, what brought them together, their heroic actions that day, and why we're here today. As I spoke to the Marines this morning after a rehearsal, many of these Marines in the formation here, this was 6 years and change ago. And many of these Marines in formation today we're in middle school, and it's as Sergeant mentioned in the beginning, this is something that can never be forgotten and needs to be remembered. The story begins in 2008, in April 2008, when 2 infantry battalions, 2nd Battalion 8th Marines and 1st Battalion 9th Marines were conducting their turnover in Ramadi. As the battalions were conducting what we know as left seat, right seat, when the experienced battalion with 7 months under the belt, the new battalion comes in to assume the combat mission, for about 10 days they go side by side in their mission. Corporal Yale and Lance Corporal Haerter were both assigned to 2-8 and 1-9 respectively. They were assuming the watch at the entry control point at Joint Security Station Nasser. The outpost billeted approximately 50 Marines and about 100 Iraqi police officers. Shortly after assuming their post, a large blue tanker truck turned down the alley toward the entry control point, rapidly negotiating the serpentine of concrete Jersey barriers. The truck was stopped just short of where the 2 Marines were posted and detonated, killing them both. The massive blast was assessed to be the result of over 2,000 pounds of explosives packed into the tanker. The magnitude of the explosion damaged or destroyed 24 brick masonry houses, a mosque 100 yards away collapsed, and the truck's engine came to rest 200 meters from the blast site. In the immediate aftermath, there was determined to be no American eyewitnesses to their actions, just a handful of Iraqi policemen. General John Kelly, the commander of the Marines and of the Iraqis in Al Anbar at the time, took it upon himself to personally speak to those eyewitnesses. To a man, each one told the same story of the Marines who stood their ground, while the Iraqi policemen, some of them who did fire back, scattered for cover and safety. 2 Marines died that day so that others would live. A security camera would later be recovered in the rubble that captured the Marines' final moments. I'd like to read a few excerpts from a speech General Kelly delivered in 2010, which captures the valiant combat action of these 2 young men. General Kelly's words: "It happened exactly as the Iraqis had described it. It took exactly 6 seconds from where the truck entered the alley until it detonated. You can watch the last 6 seconds of their young lives. It took about a second for the 2 Marines separately to come to the same conclusion about what was going on once the truck came into view at the far end of the alley. It took maybe another 2 seconds for them to present their weapons, take aim, and open up. By this time, the truck was halfway through the barriers and gaining speed. Here, the recording shows a number of Iraqi police, some of who had fired their AKs, now scattering like the normal, rational men they were, some running right past the Marines. For about 2 more seconds, the recording shows Marines firing non-stop, the truck's windshields exploding in shards of glass as the rounds take it apart and tear into the body of the son of a bitch who was trying to get past them to kill their brothers, both American and Iraqi, bedded down in the barracks. The recording shows the truck careening to a stop immediately in front of the 2 Marines. In all the instantaneous violence, Yale and Haerter never hesitated. By all reports and the recording, they never stepped back. They never even started to step aside. They never even shifted their weight. With their feet spread shoulder width apart, they leaned into danger, firing as fast as they could work their weapons. They only had 1 second to live. The truck exploded. The camera goes blank. 2 young men go to their God in 6 seconds. Not enough time to think about their families, their country, their flag, or about their lives or their deaths, but more than enough time for 2 very brave young men to do their duty into eternity. I encourage everyone, as you go inside the chow hall, the full speech is up on the wall from General Kelly, and I encourage everyone to take the time in the course of today, and for guys here in the future, take the time to read that, and it's a very good speech. Former President Ronald Reagan was quoted, "I've seen what men can do for each other and do to each other. I've seen war and peace, feast and famine, depression and prosperity, sickness and health. I've seen the depth of suffering and the peaks of triumph, and I know in my heart that man is good, that what is right will always eventually triumph, and that there is worth and purpose to each and every life. That worth and purpose in the young lives of Corporal Yale and Lance Corporal Haerter, 22 and 20 respectively at the time of their death, was not only to save the lives of their brother Marines and Iraqi partners, but to forever inspire us with their bravery, their heroism, and their self-sacrifice. Naming the Wallace Creek Chow Hall in the memory of their heroic actions brings a sense of humanity to an otherwise inanimate object. It brings a sense of humanity to the inhumanity of war and combat. Naming and dedication preserves the history and the legacy of their actions on the fateful day in Ramadi for future generations of Marines and sailors who will pass through these portals. Future generations of Marines and sailors who will also answer the call to fight evil and prevail. The naming of the Wallace Creek Chow Hall provides us a destination. It provides us a place to remember and to never forget, to hold Corporal Yale and Lance Corporal Haerter forever in our hearts and forever in our memory. To the Yale and Haerter families, Rebecca, Christian, Joanne, today's dedication ceremony is a tribute to the memory of Jonathan and Jordan, and it's also an expression of a nation's debt of gratitude for their sacrifice as well as yours. Thank you. More than duty, Semper Fidelis.